Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you will wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing, if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Oh, somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy. Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Of course, a very, very good morning. Very, very good morning. The Friday the 19th of December 2025. My name is Raj Emir. You'll have to excuse me. I have a whole list of Christmas shopping yet to do, so I'll get around to it. I was meant to go and do it this morning, but this came up and I kept getting so many phone calls through that I decided we needed to thank you for that. Thank you for nudging me. It's a failing of mine to turn the mute off. I should have some bright light hooked up or something. Anyway, number of phone calls, text messages, councillors, ex-police officers, concerned community members, and it's regarding a very popular restaurant in Royton. Now, cards on the table. It's a place I can rarely afford to go and eat. My first time I went, I think, was this year. Earlier on this year, my daughter took me for Father's Day. So that's what happened. But you know, I know it's a restaurant. I go and eat there, and I know they've expanded extensively over a number of years, and they are part of the DNA of the town. And the council has extensively partnered with them and used them. Now, when this story broke yesterday, and I'll bring it up for you so you see it. When this story broke yesterday, and there's lots of videos going out and they all got excited by it, and it was the police storming a restaurant and homes at dawn with 2 businessmen arrested after pizza box tips. So the allegation, and I'll say this first and foremost, the allegation appears to be that they're some sort of drug dealers, and the police raided their house and they raided their business as well. And here are the pictures, and I'll read it so there's no ambiguity. 2 businessmen have been arrested in early morning raids by police investigation information that drugs are being distributed in pizza boxes. Office from GMP executed warrants at 4 addresses, including 2 homes in Royton, Oldham, and 1 in Middleton this morning. That's yesterday. They also searched a restaurant in Oldham. And apparently it forms an investigation into an organised crime group. Now, the Italian restaurant, I mean, it's not, the owner isn't Italian. As a councillor has just sent me a message to remind me to let you all know it's actually Kosovan. So you need to have an understanding of that. Now, and it says suspicion of concern of supply of Class A drugs. Okay. And this is my point, Denise, first and foremost. This isn't new news. So what happened here? Now, I can only share with you what my sources have been sharing with me for some time now. And look, no notes, nothing. And I've got something prepared I want to talk to you about in a moment. But I'm going to bring this up. We all accept, I think, something called 2-tier policing. We all accept that the police have been politically compromised in a town like mine. It's a matter of fact, particularly over the rape gangs and how they have refused to police certain communities. We also know of the political dimension to this around block votes. So much so, at the most recent council meeting in my town, Councillor Holly Harrison, who my understanding is a primary school teacher, so some context, Councillor Holly Harrison stood up and defended, first and foremost, some rationale that convicted criminals should be allowed to become councillors. She also defended the need not to have enhanced DBS checks for elected officials. And if you can put those two bizarre positions to one side, it's okay for serious criminals to be councillors, and it's okay for councillors not to have police checks, DBS checks, even though they have access to vulnerable adults, even though they have access to children. If you can put that to a side for 1 minute, I sat there and listened to her use the term over-policed communities. I'd never heard that term before. And she used the term over-policed communities to somehow try and suggest that certain communities appear to have an over-representation of criminals, for instance the Pakistani rape gangs, because their communities are over-policed. So the police go looking in those communities for criminals, and that's why they find them there, because if they didn't go looking in those communities, the ratio would be the same as everywhere else. I'm not joking. That is a primary school teacher who's a councillor in this town called Holly Harrison's position. And it's the position of the Labour Party in my town. Now, I shared a picture at the beginning, and that picture was of Jim McMahon on one side, the MP, and on the other side was Arood Shah, her brother, and the convicted heroin dealer and getaway driver of cop killer Irish Shimmy stood behind them both with his arms like this. That picture was released a day after she became council leader, second time round. All of this is essential context. Jim McMahon to this day won't clarify his relationship with Irish Shimmy in terms of when he was in prison. And of course, Irish Shimmy is now running for council. He was the chief enforcer for Arood Shah's campaign. He was at the count with her and everything. Chief enforcer of Arood Shah's campaign as a Labour Party candidate, council leader candidate. And now is apparently standing as an independent, if you believe that. There are cartel wars going on in my town. I shared a video of Shah Barnes' car, one of the independent candidates' car being blown up, and details of how his house was set on fire and the police are involved in a cover-up there. 4 years ago now, I shared a video of Arood Shah's car being blown up, and to this day no one will say what went on there. No one from Greater Manchester Police, Andy Burnham's office, after we shared the video, which clearly showed the car had been left unlocked and the window was smashed after the door had been open, and it wasn't parked where she claimed it had, or suggested it had. So all of that is background knowledge. I was contacted about 4 years ago now on this, and when this information was shared with me, I didn't believe it. And every time I hear, I experience things more and more, I end up in a place where I'm challenging my own viewpoint. And I'll share the story with you. The police in my town is corrupt. Greater Manchester Police in Oldham is corrupt. I've experienced it myself, so I know that to be true, where they enact the directions of corrupt politicians who want to hide the criminality. I've been repeatedly arrested by Greater Manchester police officers at the instructions of corrupt politicians in my town. Evidence has been fabricated against me. Cases have collapsed in court. That is a matter of public record. Also a matter of public record is how Greater Manchester Police have protected repeatedly gangsters aligned with politicians. So much so I'm currently going through a judicial review of whether after they were forced to arrest someone, they unlawfully let him go. And I've got that admission from the police. Haven't I, Andy Burnham? This is what I've been told. And this is what I have come to believe is true. And I leave it to you to decide what is true yourself. The drugs trade in my town is run by individuals with direct links to multiple councillors, politicians. These politicians have direct influence over the police. And this is what is now taking place. When, for example, a Kosovan moves into the town and starts expanding his drugs empire, for instance, hypothetically speaking, no allegations from me, when someone who is not of the Pakistani establishment comes in, then the Pakistani cartel needs to flex its muscles. And this is the arrangement that they push. You will buy your heroin off us. And you will give us a cut of what you take. And should you not buy your heroin, or your cocaine, or your cannabis, or your Viagra even, yes, Irish Jimmy is also when Viagra was illegal, he was convicted of selling Viagra as well. So if you don't buy your drugs off us, there will be consequences. And you think, oh no, that means shootouts. No. You don't need shootouts. You don't need violence when you control the police. You send the police to go and arrest the people who are moving into your territory that won't pay you what you believe you are due. Let that sink in for a moment. In my town, if you want to do business illegally, you've got to pay these people. Otherwise, the power they have, they can direct the police to come and arrest you. Whilst they, of course, are protected. In my town, if you politically speak out against these people, 100% they have the power to come and have you arrested. And in my town, these people are so powerful that they've moved from an illegal space to a legal space where repeatedly I have had information shared with me and I have confirmed it and collaborated it, but the problem is we know the police are neck deep in this, so they won't investigate it, is that to get legal business done, you have to pass on the brown envelopes to the same people, the same gangsters, with the same political links as you would do if you did illegal business for the authorities to turn another and look the other way. If this sounds like some gangster movie, it's because Oldham is run by gangsters. And Oldham is not the only town run by gangsters. Towns and cities across this country are run by gangsters in exactly the same way where the politics of a town have been compromised and infiltrated. Of course, they cannot do what they do if there was not a culture of criminality, of rottenness within the police. And I will give you two examples. One is recent, one was not so long ago. I actually live in a place called Mosley, which is neighbouring to Oldham. People say, Raja, why don't you live in Oldham? And if you ever came to my house, you'll understand why it's hard to get to. And I'm somewhat protected. You've seen what happened to Shah Barnes' car. My house would be burnt down if I lived in Oldham. With the likelihood of me and my daughter in it is how they'd target it. So in Tameside, there was a police officer, most senior police officer. They protected him. He was sexually harassing a junior colleague and sending pictures of his penis. Rob Coulson. He took early retirement apparently. After going under sick forevermore, and took early retirement the day before the police had to find him guilty. And what he'd done. Not a word from Andy Burnham. And I say Andy Burnham because he's the Greater Manchester Police and Crime Commissioner. Not a word from any of the Labour Party MPs, because they know, the politicians know, that if they speak out, then their dirty laundry gets heard by the police. This is mutual blackmail. Or mutual, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, depending on the perspective. This is how rotten this town and this Greater Manchester Labour mafia run administration is. And this was the most senior police officer in Tameside. Then you have, in my town, the most senior police officer was a guy called Chris Bowen. Came in under much fanfare. They moved him on in September 2023. This is a man who helped or oversaw the police force where Arooj Shah's car was blown up and nothing was done to anyone. This is the man who oversaw multiple arrests made to me for speaking out against the now confirmed cover-up of the gang rape of children and the fabrication of evidence against me. This is how the police were in the pockets of these people, and this police officer mysteriously disappeared like that. He's since retired under a cloud of smoke, and Andy Burnham and his pals, not one of them will say a word, will you, Burnham? Was he corrupt? Was he also sending dick pics? Or was he involved in the drugs trade with Arooj Shah's sidekick? I don't know. But what I do know is that the most senior police officer in a town does not disappear that way. And what I do know is that someone has to be arrested and charged for the blowing up of her car, even if it is her. Because we will not let this go. So when you shout and scream about this restaurant in Royton getting raided, you've got to understand that the way I look at it is that even if they were involved in what's been alleged against them, it wasn't to fight crime, it was to protect the criminals that run the town. The criminals that control the politicians, that control the council, and have a disproportionate amount of influence over the police force. This is how corrupt my town is. And I would hazard a guess that this is the same in towns and cities across the country where the Pakistani cartels operate, because what they've done, very different to any other form of organised crime group in this country, what they've done is they've infiltrated politics. So it's not the same everywhere. The difference here is that these people are politically protected, and these gangs are moving across from the criminal world to the mainstream spaces, which is why you now see the getaway driver of a cop killer running for election, and no one will speak out about it. The Manchester Evening News won't run a story on it. The Labour Party won't stand up and condemn it. And the MP, Jim McMahon, dare not say anything, because my suspicion is he's neck deep involved with Irish Immy because of some historical connection with how we supported him whilst he was in prison. My friends who are in that world of taking drugs, the police will confirm they've raided my house at least 3 times. They've not even found a cigarette here. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I definitely don't take drugs. The dialer pizza sort of model is a well-established model. The lads who run that restaurant have been a feature of Royton for a number of years. They've just expanded again to open a new bar. They've not been arrested because of what they've been doing. They've not been all this media attention of the Oldham Times, the Manchester Evening News, drone footage, all that shit. That's not happened. Because the police wanted to demonstrate to us how they're going after criminals. They've not even been charged yet. That's happened because the gangsters that control this town want to send a message to all the other gangsters. This is our town, you play by our rules and you pay us. Otherwise, the politicians we control will send the police they control to come and get you. Come on, Andy Burnham. Tell me I'm making this up. Where's Bowen gone, Andy Burnham? Where's the most senior police officer in Oldham gone to? So when people hear phrases such as gangsters taking over a town, the chaos you imagine, the violence on the streets, armed police, open warfare, petrol bombs going off everywhere, this isn't really how it happens in modern Britain. And I will take a moment to explain to you the 5 signs you need to look out for where you live. Because we are losing here in Oldham. Without government intervention, this will only get worse here. And the government won't intervene because the government are complicit in what's took place here. Or individuals linked to with direct links to the government. It's a can of worms, it's a Pandora's box, use whatever phrase you want. That is what is taking place. So I'll go through the 5. Just want to say thank you to Denise for the super chat. Thank you, Denise. Hopefully I'll see you before Christmas. And thank you to Martin as well. Not seen you in a while, Martin. Hope you're well. What happens quietly, structurally, dare I say it, almost politely. The first sign is control of illicit markets. Drugs, cash lending, intimidation. It's not chaotic. It's not contested. It is stable. The same names, the same areas, year after year. No serious disruption, no sustained pressure. When criminal markets operate like regulated utilities, something has already gone wrong. It's the police. Yeah, you know who your drug dealers are, you know what's going on, and nothing ever happens. There's a reason why. The second sign, once those illicit markets are established, is the money laundering in plain sight, tolerated. Takeaways, garages, so-called community enterprises, cash-heavy operations that never seem to struggle, never seem to fail, and never seem to have anyone in them. They become part of a town's furniture. My town's full of them. We all know where they are. We all know what they are. They're openly discussed, but the authorities leave them untouched, and you go and find out who owns them and then who owns the buildings behind them. As with the shisha bars, it takes you back to those with direct links to the politicians that control the town. Which is the third sign. The political proximity. This is not a conspiracy. Arud Shah, this transmission started, the leader of the council, posing for an official picture with a convicted money laundering brother, and a convicted gangster stood behind her, and that's shared across the town. That is a message. Don't mess with us. We control this town. Don't fuck with us. That's a message to every other crime group in the town. The editor of the Oldham Chronicle earlier on this year, desperately wrote an article, Matt Ramsbottom is called, where he'd been approached by a senior figure in the town that if he wanted to do business in the town, he would have to pay him. He took it to the woman who is now the chief executive of the council, Shelley Kipling. Ask him if I'm lying. Ask her if I'm lying. Do you know what her response was, he told me? This man has very powerful political friends. That's the editor of a 120-year-old historical newspaper in the town. And then when he spoke out, Alexander Bogatov, the council leader, jumped on him and sent him letters threatening him. Surely the police should have been called in. At the last council meeting, the Pakistani sectarians brought forward a motion. They wanted the handing over of something we call the Werniff Music Rooms. It's a historical building. My daughter's grandparents got married there. That's what it is. It's tired, it's knackered. It needs, like many of our buildings, it needs doing up. But they wanted it handed over in the lead up to this next year's election. to a so-called community organisation, and they wouldn't even name who the community organisation was or who it involved. How many drug dealers? How many money launderers? This town, like many towns in this country, needs serious direct government intervention, a specific task force to come in and clean it up. And I hope, to my friends in Reform, because we now have 3 councillors led by Lewis Quigg, Mark Wilkinson, a former police officer, and Sandra Ball, that their numbers grow for next May and they commit locally and nationally to cleaning up the criminal infiltration of the political landscape of towns like mine. Because if the country needs reform, if Oldham needs reform, then surely reform has got to include taking on this corruption where the council, the gangsters and the police are all in each other's pockets. And that's the third sign, political proximity. I'm not sharing with you a conspiracy. These are not secret meetings in dark rooms. They are open relationships. Proven. Access, photos, familiarity. Criminal networks don't need to control politicians when they are the politicians. They are one and the same. That's what the bravery is. And so we're clear, I'm not just picking on Arud Shah. The leaders of some of the opposition groups, their immediate family members, their brothers, are convicted drug dealers. Openly. The fourth sign, which I'm just sharing with you now, when we talk about the drugs bust in Royton, is selective policing. Where are the drugs busts in Glodick? Where are they in Werneth? Have you gone and knocked on the door where there's a Ferrari parked outside a 2-bedroom terraced house? The chicken shops all down Yorkshire Street? No. They are all protected. Selective policing is real, and you witnessed that yesterday. Oh yes, enforcement still exists, but it flows in one direction. Some areas are saturated with attention, others are treated as too sensitive, too complex, too risky. The law doesn't disappear, it becomes conditional. And finally, of the 5 stages, there are silencing mechanisms. People, such as myself, who speak up are smeared, investigated, warned about reputational risk, falsely arrested. What does that lead to? The majority of you won't tolerate that, so you stay quiet out of fear. Fear of arrest, fear of being labelled racist, fear of being told that you're the problem for noticing the problem. When all of this exists at the same time, you don't have isolated crime. You have institutional capture. This is the truth of what is taking place in my town. This is likely the truth of what is taking place where you also live. The question, of course, is what are we going to do about it? This isn't just about race. It's about who really owns our towns. It's about compromised politicians, captured police commanders, and in my town, the getaway driver of a cop killer who is now running for public office, and whose announcement to stand was supported in the council chamber by the Labour Party, who objected to writing to the government to strengthen the safeguards to protect criminals from holding public office. They even objected to DBS checks for public officials. Oldham is what happens when organised crime groups, these OCGs, learn where the real money can be made and understand where the real power can make the most difference. I'm not asking you to believe me. You already know. You've watched it happen. You've seen the cars, the houses, the untouchables who never get touched. My friends, particularly all of you who sent me the stuff yesterday and overnight and this morning about the raid on the restaurant in Brighton. And so we're clear. It's not something I can afford to do often, but I will take my daughter there over Christmas. These gangsters aren't the real threat anymore. It's the institutions that sold you out to them. Let that sink in. Thank you so much for joining me. And yes, Greater Manchester Police, you're corrupt, you're infested with criminals, and a day will come when some of your most senior police officers are put in prison. They're not allowed to resign quietly on their full pensions, and you hush it up. A day will come when some of the most powerful police officers in this country are also put in prison. Being allowed to step down a full pension after years of being sick because you got caught sending dick pics to a junior officer. You should be ashamed of yourself, Andy Burnham, for allowing that to take place. Arud Shah and all the Pakistanis in Oldham who think you've taken over my town because you control the police. We see it, we call it out, and believe me when I say this to you, we will be, and we are taking our town back. If you are new to me, my name is Raj. I'm here 7 years in, 3 years on police bail, God knows how many years where the newspapers have smeared me and smeared me. I still have my MBE, and I still am able to look in the mirror and stare into the eyes of the reflection that looks back at me. I am 100% community funded. I am totally reliant on your support to keep going. That's the QR code there. All of my content I share 100% free. The only ask is, if you can afford to support me, then please support me. I won't wish you a very Merry Christmas just yet. I will be back on Sunday, and it is my intention, because we are at a place of no return. It is my intention to work throughout Christmas and the New Year and keep bringing you content for as long as I'm able to. And David, my friend David Nestor, not seen you in a while, missing you, mate. All right, please, if you can, support me, even if it is all that you do is share the content. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.